Hey everyone, so if you're in the Kubernetes world, you know it's basically the engine running modern software. But you also know that complexity is just exploding. So where's this all going? Well, we're going to break down the 5 key trends, plus one little bonus, that are set to define the entire Kubernetes ecosystem by 2026. Let's get into it. First off, let's just wrap our heads around the scale we're talking about. The average enterprise isn't just dabbling with a cluster or two anymore. Nope. They're actively managing over 20 of them. That is a huge leap in operational overhead. And that really brings us to the big question, right? How on earth do we manage all of this? How do we use all this power without getting completely buried by the complexity? The answer, it turns out, lies in some really big shifts in how we approach platforms, security, and even the workloads themselves. First up, trend number 1, the absolute rise of platform engineering. And look, this isn't just another buzzword to throw around. It's a fundamental change in how companies are finally taming that Kubernetes beast, all so their developers can actually ship code faster and, more reliably. This quote just nails the old way of doing things, doesn't it? Here's kubectl, good luck. In the past, you just get thrown access to a cluster and be told to figure it out. Platform engineering flips that script. It's all about building what they call paved roads to production. Safe, curated, and easy-to-use paths for developers. And the numbers? They totally back this up. According to Gartner, adoption is set to just skyrocket, going from 45% back in 2022 to a predicted 80% by 2026. So yeah, this isn't some niche thing anymore. It's quickly becoming the new normal for any serious tech organization. And the engine that's really driving this platform revolution? It's GitOps. The idea is simple but powerful. You treat your Git repository as the one and only source of truth. This means you get deployments that are automated, reliable, and totally auditable. Tools like Argo CD and Flux are basically just watching Git, making sure your live cluster always matches what's defined in your code. It's the bedrock of all this. All right, on to our second major trend. Kubernetes isn't just for your standard web apps anymore, not by a long shot. It's rapidly becoming the go-to platform for what is probably the most demanding workload out there today, artificial intelligence. So what's making this all possible? Well, it's a perfect storm of a few key things. GPU scheduling has gotten way better, which makes managing that expensive hardware a lot easier. We have amazing ML platforms like Kubeflow that are built for Kubernetes. And maybe most importantly, the CNCF's AI conformance program has basically given Kubernetes its official stamp of approval, saying, yes, this thing is ready for production AI. Okay, trend number 3 is a big one, and it's something we absolutely have to talk about: security. The whole mindset here has done a complete 180. We are finally moving away from treating security like some bolt-on afterthought. Instead, we're baking it in from the very beginning, from the very first line of code. And a perfect way to see this in action is the shift in container images. The old way was to use a full operating system like Ubuntu as your base. It came with shells, package managers, basically a giant open door for attackers. The new standard is all about minimal, distroless images that contain only your app and exactly what it needs to run, nothing more. And the impact of this change is just staggering. By switching to these hardened, minimal images, you can slash your potential attack surface by up to 95%. That is a massive, massive win for security. And with companies like Docker making thousands of these images available for free, it's easier than ever to make the switch. Now, speaking of security, let's talk about a technology that is just revolutionizing how we do networking and security inside Kubernetes: eBPF. The simplest way to think about it is this. It lets you run tiny, super safe programs directly inside the Linux kernel itself. This gives you unbelievable power and visibility without all the old overhead. So why should you care? Because eBPF unlocks a whole new world of possibilities. We're talking about ridiculously fast networking, service meshes that don't need those clunky sidecar containers anymore, and the ability to see everything happening in your cluster without having to change a single line of your application's code. It's a total game changer. Trend number 4 is a really interesting one that's gaining a ton of steam for some very specific use cases: WebAssembly, or Wasm for short. Now, to be clear, this is not a replacement for containers. Think of it as a powerful partner, especially for things like edge computing and serverless. And the benefits just jump right out at you when you put them side by side. A container might start up in a few seconds and take up megabytes of space. A Wasm module? It starts in milliseconds, and its footprint is measured in kilobytes.
This makes it absolutely perfect for anything that needs a near-instant cold start and has to be super resource efficient. Our fifth trend kind of brings us full circle, right back to that complexity problem we started with. The truth is, the days of just managing one Kubernetes cluster are pretty much over. The new reality is managing an entire fleet of them, scattered across different clouds, your own data centers, and all the way out to the edge.
And that reality looks a lot like this. The average enterprise isn't just an AWS shop or just an on-prem shop anymore. They're everywhere, running workloads across 5 or more distinct environments. Trying to manage all of that consistently is, without a doubt, one of the biggest challenges and opportunities for Kubernetes heading into 2026. And succeeding here really requires a whole new way of thinking. We're moving on from that old lift and shift idea of just dumping everything into one cloud. The smarter, more modern strategy is all about putting the right workload in the right place. So maybe you run your AI inference at the edge to get super low latency while you do the heavy model training back in the cloud. Okay, time for our bonus trend, which is really more of a reality check. We need to talk about the money. What does it actually cost to run Kubernetes at scale, and how do we get a handle on it? Now, this might sound completely backwards, but it's so important to understand. Kubernetes does not automatically save you money on your cloud bill. In fact, in the beginning, it can often make it go up. The real return on investment comes from making your developers faster and your operations more scalable, not from immediate cost savings. So, where's all the money going? Well, the breakdown is pretty telling. The number one culprit, by a long shot, is over-provisioning. That's just teams asking for way more compute resources than they ever actually use. Right behind that are idle resources, test environments that just run 24/7. And finally, there's just a basic lack of visibility into who's spending what.
But it's not all bad news. Here's the good part. By adopting FinOps practices, which is really just about getting visibility, sizing your resources correctly, and automating cleanup, most organizations can cut their Kubernetes costs by a pretty significant 30 to 40%. The savings are definitely there for the taking.
So let's put this all together. These trends aren't happening in isolation. They're all connected. Platform engineering makes it easier to manage all these secure distributed clusters, and those clusters are now powerful enough to run intelligent AI workloads, all while we get a much better handle on the costs. The Kubernetes of 2026 is truly growing up into this powerful global platform for running, well, pretty much anything.
And that really brings us to the final and most important question. These changes are happening, and they're happening fast. Thinking about them today is what's going to keep you competitive tomorrow. So you have to ask yourself, is your organization ready for this next evolution of Kubernetes?